Hey guys, welcome back to English with Dry. Today we are taking a look at persuasive writing, specifically how you can master using evidence in order to back up your arguments. The first thing I'm going to do is show you two statements, and I want you to discuss or consider yourself which is the more persuasive and also why. You might wish to write down your answers on a bit of paper or in your English books. So statement one, having a uniform makes students do better in their exams. Or statement 2. Schools who have a uniform policy perform 13% better in examinations than those that don't. Okay, now it should be pretty obvious that the more persuasive is the statement on the right. Now the reason for that isn't just that there is a number in it, it's that there is a percentage attached, which means that clearly some research has been done into the topic of school uniform. This is one of the basics of using evidence to back up your arguments. Now, today we are going to do all our work based on the following exam question. You need to write a letter to your MP. In this, you need to show your views about whether or not schools should have a uniform policy. Now, you can see from the marking that this is a section B, and it would be from an AQA English Language Paper 2. So all of the examples that we look at over the course of this video are going to be based off of this prompt question. So, the basics of using evidence as part of your persuasion. By now, you should be aware that using evidence makes what you're saying more believable, more compelling. If someone tells you it's raining, how many of you look outside yourself before you actually believe them? The reason is you are much more likely to believe what you are told if you have some sort of proof given to you. This is why you need it in your persuasive writing. Now, if you've watched my previous video on how to structure writing in general, you will know that this would come roughly in the third paragraph of what you're writing. However, today we're going to see if we can master how to use it effectively. So, firstly, types of evidence, because there's lots of different types you can use. A first activity I'd like you to do is make a list of as many different examples of proof as you can think of. For instance, this statement here has a statistic in it. 4 out of every 5 students agree that having to wear a school uniform makes getting ready in the morning less stressful. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Try to come up with as many other types of evidence or proof that you could use in your writing. Go. Okay, now you can take longer if you want, just pause this video. But we will go through some now. So the S, which is for statistics, as we've already looked at. Now this is when you use information produced by studies or investigations into the topic that you are discussing. Q, this is quotations, writing the exact words used by experts on the topic you are discussing to reinforce what you're saying. O, opinions, summarizing the thoughts and feelings of people who know about or are affected by the topic. And then finally F, facts, including anything you know for certain cannot be questioned or disputed in support of your point of view. Now, this short acronym SQUAF is not the catchiest one. I suspect you probably wouldn't even need to remember SQUAF in order to remember these. And of course, there are other types of evidence you can use, but generally these are the umbrella headings under which I think most things fall under. So if you can remember to include at least one of these in your writing, I guarantee it will be better off. We're going to take a look at them all in a little bit more depth now. So, statistics. Often these are a very effective way of proving what you are saying is by telling the reader that research is being done into the topic and it backs up your argument. This could include surveys, investigations, experiments, opinion polls, and many more things. This clearly demonstrates to the reader that this is an important topic, as expert people are putting time and money into finding out about it. People also tend to be more trusting of data and numbers as they sound official. Statistics can often come in the form of percentages, ratios, increase/decrease figures, and many more. It's even more reassuring if you tell people the research is being carried out by trusted organizations, like famous universities or institutions. So an example. A 2015 survey carried out by the Institute of Education suggested that schools in the United Kingdom without uniform policies had 28% more negative behaviour incidents relating to student clothing than those with policies. Now you can see here that I am referencing a survey. Now, this was done by the Institute of Education. Now, that is a leading university wing in the United Kingdom that specializes in teacher training and specifically research into education. And I've said they have concluded that having a uniform policy makes behavior better. Now, I'm going to let you in on a secret about your persuasive writing for the AQA language exam. You don't need to memorize the facts. In fact, the chances of you being able to memorize enough facts about everything in the world for the possible topic that will come up is virtually non-existent. So what you need to do is make them up. There was no survey done in 2015 by the IOE about this, but I've said there is anyway, and it sounds believable. The assessment is not of your knowledge of the whole world. It's of your ability to write in a certain way. And if you can make up something that sounds believable like this, then you are filling that assessment objective. The one thing to note is to make it sound believable. If you make up something that sounds ridiculous, then that could be a reason why you lose marks. If you use a number that's outrageous, like 100% of students who don't wear their proper school uniform end up in jail, that's not going to do your argument any good because it sounds ridiculous. Or if you make up the name of a place that sounds totally ridiculous as well, that's not a good thing. But in general, you can come up with whatever you want to support your argument in this question. So, now write your own example that uses a statistic as evidence. Pause the video, spend 5 minutes, and have a shot. Okay, next, quotations. So directly quoting an expert is one of the most foolproof ways to reinforce your argument. What you're doing is proving that someone else thinks exactly the same way as you do, but also allowing them to say it in their own words. This means that you cannot be lying about what they think. The types of people you should quote are experts, such as professors, doctors, politicians, arguably, scientists, or anyone specific to the topic you're discussing. Remember, you will probably be making this up on the spot, so it's important to use a realistic sounding name. Again, you're not going to have memorized these quotes, so again, you're going to be making them up. Let's look at my example. Professor Susan Clark at King's College London recently tweeted, "Students at schools without uniform policies are found to have spent 3 hours a week on choosing outfits. Imagine if they spent that revising instead." There we go. It's got the sound of truth about it because King's College London's a real place. That's a real person's name, possibly. And also, Twitter is a perfectly reasonable platform that people use to share their ideas. So there's every chance this could be a real thing. And it sounds like it is real. Therefore, persuasive. Okay, now have a go on your own of using a quotation as evidence. Pause the video, spend 5 minutes. Okay, thirdly, opinions. Using the opinions of people is similar to using quotations. However, you do not have to write exactly what they have said. What this does is it allows you as the writer more freedom as you can summarize someone's belief in your own words. Furthermore, you can add your own twist to these opinions. For instance, you can add emotive language that shows how strongly or passionately someone agrees with you. Opinions do not always have to come from experts either. You could give opinions of members of the public or people whose jobs or lives are affected by the topic you're discussing. This is similar to how witnesses are used in trials. For example, many parents also believe uniform is in the best interests of young people. Father of 3, Otis Henry, recently gave an interview where he claimed that his son, who attends a school not requiring uniform, is noticeably more anxious about his appearance than his 2 daughters. This person is not real, I've fabricated them, but it sounds like it could be right. And what I've done here is I have put words in his mouth. He may or may not have said this, but I have told you that he does. Now, I've summarized it in what sounds like a fair way, but I've used a little bit of this emotive language. Anxious. I'm creating a sense of sympathy subtly underneath this, which makes this quite a persuasive opinion, whilst also having the kind of semblance of being very, very real. Now, again, write your own example that uses an opinion. 5 minutes. Take it away. Okay, finally, facts. Using factual information to prove your argument is the basis of good persuasion. If you use a fact well, then people are unable to argue with it. A key to doing this is also writing where this information came from. It's like when you quote somebody in an essay at school, you need to cite or write down in the footnote where you got this from, the book that is, and put it in a bibliography. Because what this does is it adds a further layer of the reliability of what you were saying. So, it's a fact that young people are more stressed than they ever have been before. We should not add to this by making them feel pressurized to choose the right outfit before they've even left for school in the morning. Now, the thing I've said there is a fact is that young people's stress levels are higher. Now, this is obviously not something that I have proved here, but it's something that is so often spoken about in the media and in the common consciousness that it's almost accepted as fact at the moment. It's unanimously agreed that young people are more stressed out by life than they were perhaps 20 years ago. And therefore, me including this as a fact does create this level of reliability. It creates believability over what I'm saying because it does sound exactly like the sort of thing somebody would say at the moment. And therefore, it makes my argument about this being a reason to take the pressure off them and give them uniform to wear more believable. Okay, finally, have a go at this one. You know what to do, 5 minutes. Okay, so we've looked at the basics in a bit more detail. Now we're going to go into some advanced techniques of using proof and evidence to make your writing more persuasive. We know that using them on their own can be effective, but combining them with other types of persuasive techniques can be even better. For example, take a look at this example. What techniques are being used in the following statement, and how are they persuasive? The fact of the matter is that appearance is something that frequently causes teenagers grief, anxiety, and self-loathing. Who would we add to this? Spend a minute discussing what you think is going on persuasively in this statement. Okay, so what I've done here is I've made a statement that claims to be a fact, but in reality is an opinion. It claims that appearance causes all teenagers stress. However, this is not true, as it's not the case for every last teenager. Therefore, it's not a fact, it's actually my opinion. Equally, there's no source attached, and so therefore it's more like the opinion of the writer. And the use of emotive language in the triplet and the rhetorical question, what they do is they make the reader sympathize with young people, because that's what this statement is actually doing. Yes, it's persuading you by using something that sounds real, but it's also being manipulative in an emotional sense. The statement has the believability of being a fact, however, contains enough other persuasive devices to make the reader engage on an emotional level too. Secondly, look at this example. What's the writer doing here to create a persuasive argument? Surely if 61% of teenagers believe that wearing uniform improves their organizational skill, then we can all agree it is a positive influence. What's happening here is that a statistic is being used, but in such a way that it directs the reader to feel exactly how the writer wants them to. It's giving a fact, but twisting it to the point where you are not being given, as the reader, a choice to disagree. It's one thing to write down a number, but another to then tell the audience what this number means and why it's significant. It's called leading the witness, and it means that you are not just presenting facts, but twisting them to fit your own argument. This can be the single best way to persuade somebody of something. If you make it seem like disagreement is not an option, or you make it crystal clear, then that is exactly what you need to be doing. Okay, now try to experiment on your own by using a mixture of these persuasive devices I've given you to write an essay in response to the main question. If you want, you can submit them to this YouTube channel and I will mark them for you. I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure you like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.